In this video, we will be discussing introduction to balancing chemical reactions. In this lab, you will actually complete an activity, not necessarily like an experiment. In this activity, you will understand what it means for a chemical reaction to be balanced visually and conceptually, and you will practice that process. So this lab doesn't include a PhET simulation, which I really enjoy. That's why I include those in these labs. So please know that there is a process to balancing equations. I know that it may be easy to want to intuitively just go at the equation and try to balance it, but there's a process that's going to shorten that time. It's going to make things simpler and easier. And that process is actually located in the relevant chapter material, which is chapter 7 on chemical reactions. In this chapter, if you open up the PDF or if you watch the videos, you will see that there is a section on balancing equations, and there is a step-by-step process. So I just want you to keep this in mind and have it open either on the side, or have it, if you are a printer, if you like to have things physically printed, then print it out for yourself, along with these other slides and these other examples that you can complete for yourself, that I complete along with you in these videos. Please have that with you. So I just want to point that out, that you're not I want to point out the resources that you have available. That's what I want to do. So in this lab, there are 3 parts. We're working on exactly what is a balanced equation, and then we're going to work on practicing them, and then you have a challenge at the end. So with part 1, it takes you step by step. So first, click on introduction, which is that, and then you are going to work on make ammonia, right? So it guides you step by step what's going on. So this first question, the second, number 2, is asking you what this subscript means. So if you remember from previous chapter material, you know that a subscript tells you how many atoms there are. So either how many atoms there are within a compound or how many atoms within a molecule, right? So that's basically what that tells you, and I'll leave it at that. So from that idea that you, or that piece of information that you pull from your previous knowledge, you are going to have to think about whether it's possible to change the subscripts. Now remember that coefficients are different from subscripts, right? Coefficients are the ones that go in front. These are the ones that you are changing when you balance chemical equations. These are the ones you can change. So what does that say about subscripts? So then it kind of just gives you a few more guiding questions to help you understand how the simulation works, and I'll leave it at that just so that you can explore. And that's basically what a few of the first questions are. And then notice that in question 7, it's asking about what is going on in this, like what is everything being shown, like what's on the left, what's on the right, right? And it's asking you to put a name to what's on the left side, which is reactants. So notice that I went back to the slides because this is where that information comes from. Or just know that, again, you have resources. And then your products are on your right hand side. Arrows separate those. Plus signs separate each reactant from one another, and then each product from one another. So again, always have that open for you. It's very, very useful. And then once again, it is guiding you. So there's another tool here, an actual little balance that can help you understand visually. So 2 balances show up. What does the one on the left hand show? So again, I will leave you to explore this lab. Now, in number 11 and on is where I believe you start balancing. So, or you start checking if it's balanced. So, see, we're going to balance our first equation. We're starting first with 1 and 2. Change the coefficients on the H2 and NH3 until it's balanced. So you start with that, and I will let you once again explore. You can play around with the simulation. If you get it wrong, it's okay. That's completely okay. You can, or not if you get it wrong, but if you feel like you just want to start over and clear it, you can go ahead. It's right there. The clear button is this orange button with the circular arrow. You are more than welcome to give that several tries. And then once you have successfully balanced, you can start to think about what balance means, what it implies, right? Which implies that something is equal on both. Technically, you should have both sides, right? So it's asking you, are the number of molecules on each side of the equation balanced? So you will have to count and really think about whether that is true or not. And then so that was asking whether molecules are balanced, right? But you need to think about the difference between molecules versus atoms, right? Those are two different things. Molecule is also a synonym for compound. So you can say either compound or atoms, or molecule or atoms, right? Those are the two different comparisons we're making. Compound in atoms or molecule in atoms, right? So you have to know what the differences between those are. And you happen to learn that in the previous chapter. So in this previous chapter, I'm actually on too early. Right here, chapter 5, molecules and compounds. This is where you went and learned about the differences between the two. So if you want to revisit that information, go ahead and open that PDF up. And you will see, for example, this slide that shows you atoms versus compounds. This is one H atom versus two separate H atoms. You see how it has a coefficient versus a compound has it as a subscript, and you can see that there's a bond between them. And here you have two of those little H2 molecules. So you can see the differences between what coefficients mean versus what subscripts mean in this particular example. And there's obviously more information in this chapter. So you can reference that information if you need when you are answering these questions. And finally, you are summarizing what a balanced chemical equation is. And then you can move on to balancing equations. So here is where the fun really starts, and you get to balance equations. And you don't have to take it so slow. I think, yeah, on this one, we're finally going to take it a step further. So here, instead of making ammonia, we're working with separating water. So you're going to work on balancing this. And now that you know how to use a simulation, you can go ahead and try that out. Once again, don't be scared to try different things, to play around with the simulation. It's meant for you to be able to do that. You can just start it over if you would like. Now here, once you balance, I would like for you to keep track of each element, and you are going to type the number of atoms for each element on the reactant side and on the product side, and keep track of them here, okay? So you're just going to enter, your numbers, enter your numbers, enter your numbers. So these questions are just follow-up questions. So what you should do here is focus on balancing the equation, and then follow up with number 2, follow up with number 3, right? Because Once you have it balanced, you can determine, okay, the coefficient is XY's, whatever number you happen to get um, in front of water, for example. Next, you are going to balance the final chemical reaction you have available here, which is combusting methane. So once again, you're going to do the exact same thing, except now you have 3 different elements within all your reactants and products. You have carbon, hydrogen, oxygen. Now, this is when the information that I give in the PowerPoint in your chapter material on D2L, that's when this really comes into play. So I would like for you to follow this process if possible. So write this equation out on paper or your iPad, or type it out somewhere else, and go ahead and follow this process. And then you can go back and double check with the simulation, and I think that'll really help you connect our chapter material to this. Now, I know that's easier said than done, right? So what if you would like a demonstration of that? And that's where the chapter videos come into play, right? So in chapter 7, I have a video again that I mentioned earlier on balancing equations, and you'll notice that I balanced an equation pretty similar to this around minute 10 or so. Minute, I think, starting actually earlier. Oh wow. Starting around minute 6, right? So watch that video. I go step by step on actually balancing a combustion reaction where you have to use fraction equations. So, give that a go and then come back, balance here, and then you can go ahead and proceed with everything. I really recommend that. And then you might find that you won't even need it to be that complicated, and that's completely okay, but I really recommend that example because it's one of the more challenging ones. So if you know how to do that, then this will be a piece of cake. Okay, and finally you have your balancing equations challenge, and this is where you are going to actually when you're at home, this is how it'll load. You're going to click on the game, and you are going to start with level 1, and you are going to balance 5 total equations. So you're going to have a total of 15. It should be, I believe, 15. But either way, you're going to have to go through first level 1, as stated here, and then complete, balancing them. Think about how you completed that. Take notes if you want to. Use your chapter resources, and then really summarize all that and provide 2 strategies to balance chemical equations. So please complete that in full sentences, full complete sentences. And then finally, you can open your level 2 or level 3 if you're up to it, and you can complete one of those, take a screenshot, and add in your screenshot here. So with that, I will leave you to getting to this lab. I think it's a useful lab in terms of understanding this concept of balancing equations, giving you that practice that you need. And then from there, you can tackle your active chemistry, or hopefully you've already been tackling those problems and challenging yourself, so that this will probably be a piece of cake for you. So please let me know if you have any questions at all. Please know that you do have all those resources in your chapter 7, in your videos, everything. So please don't hesitate to use all of that, as well as your textbook. So your textbook, I link it every single chapter. So notice that there's a section right specifically on that, how to write balanced chemical equations, and it takes you through examples, and it explains it and breaks it down. So you have many resources available to you, and please feel free to use those, and let me know if you have any questions. But other than that, thank you for watching, and I'm here for you if you have any questions.